see everything. Bosnia Bobbit, an early painting, and it was one of the first times I realized that there's something wrong with our news. Something terribly wrong with our news. The Bobbits were a married couple who had marital problems that escalated into a violence, and their situation was covered for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And at the time that they were covering the Bobbit story, there was a war going on in Bosnia. People were being killed, people were being murdered, ethnic cleansing was going on, and there was absolutely no coverage of the war. I realized there was a war going on because I happened to listen to BBC. To American news, you would have only thought that this marital couple was going to dominate the news for weeks, and we've seen that over and over again. This painting is called White House, Your House, and the central image is of a person's pants, happens to be Clinton's pants. This was at the height of the Monica Lewinsky affair. And again, I mean, that story must have gone on not for weeks. I believe it went on for months because they wanted to get rid of Clinton for months. And I kept thinking, like, what else is going on in the world? Well, I mean, I'm sure there's something happening besides Clinton's affair. And sure enough, amaze everyone, bin Laden formed a coalition called the Islamic Front for Jihad against Jews and Crusaders. Did you hear about it? I didn't. There was a fatwa printed in a London newspaper against Americans. How would our lives have been changed if someone had heard about it and took the threat seriously? Dusk Railroad, another postmodern painting based on Hopper's Railroad Sunset. Why did I choose this painting? Because Hopper painted the quintessential lonely American Western scene, a railroad out in the expanse of the West. I almost copied his composition exactly because I inserted a watchtower from Camp Delta. Why did I do that? Because honestly, I have to ask myself, and we have to ask ourselves as Americans, is it okay to hold the enemy indefinitely without trial? Is this what Geneva says? Is this what the Geneva Convention says, to which we're a party? Is this what the Bill of Rights says? Who are we? And who are we becoming? What does it mean to be American anymore? If the values that America was founded on become ignored and are tossed aside, how do we define what America is anymore? And that's a question that we all have to answer together. What do we want America to become? Where will this fight against terrorism lead us as a country? Who are we as a people? Who are we becoming? This painting is called Button Mushroom. It's called the conceptual painting. Why? Because there are 4 panels, and by themselves the images have no meaning. There's a button you press for the elevator, there's a picture of the earth, and there's a mushroom. Well, the mushroom really represents atomic warfare, and the button represents the button that you press, God forbid, to start atomic warfare. And you have to remember that in spite of the SALT Treaty, there are thousands and thousands of nuclear weapons left, both in here and Russia, other places. And it's just something to be aware that we need to work for nuclear non-proliferation. We have to try to stop the spread of nuclear weapons. Nothing is more important. And I think Obama would agree with that statement. This is some early student work of mine. And this work is called La Toilette. And it's actually also, in a way, postmodern because it's based on a very early work by Duchamp. Duchamp made a ready-made work called The Urinal in 1917. Why did he do that? Because he was living through the First World War. He was horrified by the death and the gassing and the murder in the trenches, horrified. And he thought if he was going to put a picture on view in an exhibit, he was going to put a picture of something that showed how absurd Western civilization was. So I took his idea of the uniroom and I called it La Toilette, because to me, what's happening now, where military companies and media companies are hand in hand, is very, very dangerous. It's very dangerous, and it can't go on. It cannot continue. I think the American people have to do something to stop that. The last work I want to talk about is a work called Cyclone. I was thinking about the cyclone in Coney Island. I was hoping they wouldn't tear it down, and they didn't. And that's why it's curved. I was thinking about, I guess, the speed of our lives. And there's an image of an oil blob, how apropos to this week, and oil rigs. And around the perimeter are rectangles from film strips. And all this picture is saying is that our lives revolve around the import of oil and the export of entertainment. This is our way of life. This is our Western way of life. And with this, I want to close. I want to thank you all so much for coming. I'm so glad. I'm so glad I could share my work with all of you.